Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, thou members of Parliament, the ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, that good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us the vision of our country, fair as it might be, country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, we begin with the correction of votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 9 February 2022. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 7. Yes, Honourable Member for.
Speaker, item number 10 at page 7, the Honourable Alaute Oforiwa. She was here yesterday, but has been captured as absent. She drew my attention earlier that if we could correct it on her behalf. She has a committee meeting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Page 8. Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, page 8, item 39. Bismarck, I wasn't here yesterday, but with permission.
Very well, the table office will effect the correction. Honourable Member, the table office is advising me that they haven't received your petition. Can they follow it up through and make sure it gets to the table office so they make the correction?
Very well, Speaker.
Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Yes, no, very well. Page 12. Yes, Honourable Member for New Tafo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Item number 685. The third line. Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture. Aquaculture misspelled.
Very well. Thank you. The table office will take note. Item 13. Sorry, I said item 13. I mean page 13. Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Speaker, the financing agreement advertised to have been laid by the Honorable Dr. John Nkrumah on behalf of the Minister of Finance. The statement of fact, it was rather the other Deputy Minister, the Honorable Abner Osai, who did the laying. Office could correct that.
Thank you. The table office will take note. Page 14. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, item number 11 at page 14, the constituency of the Honorable Emmanuel Amakufibua. I'm sure if he was here, he would have corrected it. Elembele, the second double L's should be one. The first group is correct, ELLEMBE, but
the name, Honorable, the name is in Zima. They are spelling it in English.
Yes, but Mr. Speaker, if you check with the records of the House and even how it has been captured at page 3, item 95, that's how it's been spelled. So, thank
Very
you.
well. Yes, Honorable Member for Medina. Oh, sorry.
For Adenta.
Adenta. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just by way of clarity, page 14, it says that the Honorable First Deputy Speaker took the chair at 158. But if my memory serves me right, I think it was the Second Deputy Speaker who adjourned the House, but it's captured here as well as the First Deputy Speaker.
The item 11. The Honorable Speaker withdrew from the chair at 158.
Yes, and then it goes on to say the Honorable First Deputy took the chair. The Honorable First Deputy Speaker, having regard to the state of the House, but if my memory serves me right, I think it was the Second Deputy Speaker who ended the session.
No, your memory is wrong. I took over from him the last 1 hour before proceedings closed. Honourable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 is hereby accepted as a true record of proceedings. Honourable members, we have one official report. The official report of Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. Any corrections, please? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did this correction the last time in the votes and proceedings. On the cover page, the title should be The Disturbing Resurgence of Coup d'etats in the African region, not African sub-region. And if we can do the same correction, Mr. Speaker, at column 31 in the content. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Any further corrections, please? In the absence of any further corrections, the official report of Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, as corrected, is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Speaker, as was discussed, originally we should be taking questions item 5, or seek your leave for the order of business to be varied. I've communicated with the Minister due to appear before the House, and he's almost the President of Parliament. So, Speaker, with your leave, if we may, as was agreed, go on to statement. As Speaker yourself have agreed to a number of statements, as and when necessary, or as and when the Minister appears, then we can revert to take the questions.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
Madam Speaker, with respect to the whip, where is the Minister for Trade and Industry? And he has deputies. Even if he's not here, one or two of the deputy ministers should be available to respond to the question. We are asking Speaker to vary business. For how long? We just need to know. If he's available to answer the questions, we'll tolerate him. If he's unavailable, you must provide better explanation why he's not here to answer the questions. But to just say that we should vary business to statement, that will not be a good route. Where is your Minister for Trade and Industry? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, I don't intend to drag this matter. And in this House, we've always disagreed to agree. The Honorable Ablakwa, who stood in your absence, will confirm that a conclave was one of the options we looked at, that in the event of the Minister not appearing as at the time we had agreed upon, we will go on to questions. But I can tell you in confidence, I've spoken to the Minister, maximum the next 30 minutes, I'm sure he'll be in Parliament. So if you accede, we should go ahead and take the statement, and then after which we can go on to take the questions. But I can assure you the Minister is coming.
Speaker, what assurance is the whip giving me? Are you for Alan or you are for Baumia? Who did you speak to? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable, that's out of order. That's out of order. Very well. We will start with the statements. Looking around for the number of statements that have been admitted, I see only two of them immediately available, but for one we agreed that we'll wait for a minister so that he could respond. So I will call on the Honorable Member for Kwadaso to read the statement on Ghana's presence on the United Nations Security Council, its prospects in promoting peace and security within the sub-region. Yes, Honorable Member.
Well, Honorable Speaker, I'm grateful to you for the honor to make this statement to this August House. Honorable Speaker, on January 4, 2022, Ghana was admitted to the UN Security Council, confirming the West African countries' return to the group after 15 years. Ghana's membership was marked with a flag installation ceremony alongside new members, including Albania, Brazil, Gabon, the United Arab Emirates. The Speaker, Ghana will serve a 2-year term on the Council from January 2022 to December 2023, having served on the Council for the terms 1962 to 63, 1986 to 87, and 2006 to 2007. Hence, this will be the 4th time Ghana will hold a non-permanent seat on the Council, which leads the UN's peace agenda for the security of member countries. Mr. Speaker, being a member of the Security Council comes with the responsibility of actively promoting conflict prevention, reconstruction, multilateralism, and international peace, which is the core tenet of the United Nations Peace and Security Agenda, as well as the modern international order and the Sustainable Development Goals. Ghana's presence must translate into deepening our peacekeeping for international peace and security, particularly in the sub-region. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has been in the process of cultivating the culture of internal peace and promoting the practice of peace with the rest of Africa and the world since colonial rule. Indeed, Ghana has been involved in developing and supporting early warning systems to support peace and security protocols at the regional and continental levels. Today, Ghana ranks among the top 10 contributors to UN peacekeeping, with nearly 3,000 personnel serving on 8 different missions across the world. This enviable relevance and superiority of influence require our direction in promoting constructive dialogue in West Africa, Africa, and the world. Mr. Speaker, this privilege must afford us preventive measures to enforce rule of law, respect for economic and human rights, and end the impunity of political leaders who seek to amend their national constitutions or manipulate electoral laws for their political and parochial gains. Mr. Speaker, it is fair to suggest that the failure of Ecowas leadership to take proactive measures in handling errant leaders has contributed to the recurring wave of new coups in the sub-region. Ghana must leverage on this enviable recognition and, in harmony with regional treaties and other international standards, promote effective democratic principles and rule of law as a prerequisite for retaining membership, and in so doing advance measures to end human rights violations and abuses in several member states. Honorable Speaker, the spirit of political upheavals, interstate conflicts, civil wars, and military coups and takeovers in West Africa continue to bring many of its economies on its knees, creating humanitarian casualties, crises, and concerns. Ghana's contribution to transition countries such as Liberia, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, and Guinea-Bissau from war to democratic and constitutional rule is a testament to her overwhelming endorsement for peace and security. Mr. Speaker, there is a rapid growth of armed groups and cross-border syndicates, as well as human and drug trafficking and small arms proliferation, particularly the alarming convergence of terrorist and violent borderless extremist groups. These hybrids and evolving groups continue to exploit the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of fragile states and conflict zones to perpetuate violence and seize control of territories to challenge the legitimacy of states. The consequences of these activities are clear in a cocktail of humanitarian crises that continue to worsen the fragility of states and human security on our continent. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's presence on the Security Council is a recognition of our capacity to help address the challenges facing our world today and the prospects involved in working closely with all the new and existing members of the Council to address such issues relating to extremism, terrorism, cyber threats, arms trafficking, climate change, among others. It is an attestation of our strong democratic credentials and comes at a challenging period when our sister nations are battling military coups and insurgencies. While we preserve our stability, we must work harder to return these affected nations to a democratic path to quell oscillatory large-scale and interstate conflicts and insurgencies in the sub-region. With the country's experience in conflict mediation, prevention, and reconstruction, recognition should afford us the leverage for stronger ties, complementary, and sustainable actions between the United Nations, continental, and other regional bodies. Mr. Speaker, at the last extraordinary virtual Ecowas summit held on January 28, 2022, to discuss the political situation in Burkina Faso, our President and Chairman of the Board, His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, noted the deteriorating political situation in the region and underscored that no country in the community is insulated from the occurrence and the need to swiftly arrest the disturbance. The President indicated that the recent wave of coups in the region indicates some detest democracy as a mode of governance, hence the need for the bloc to, quotes, work to convince those people that we are all safer under democracies, unquote. Mr. Speaker, being at the Security Council suggests that Ghana becomes the arrowhead for peace in the sub-region and must promote collective obligations for peace, relations, and expectations of our citizens in the region and beyond. Mr. Speaker, situations in Africa dominate the agenda of the Security Council, hence the opportunity demands our lead in efforts to address the conflicts votes out of 190 votes cast compared to the other 4 member states elected. Mr. Speaker, although forceful conflicts seem to be declining in the sub-region, recent insurgencies in the Sahel region affecting Mali, Niger, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, and low-intensity conflicts surging in stable countries such as Nigeria and Senegal present fearsome signals of the possible risk surfacing of internal and regional destructive conflicts. Mr. Speaker, these conflicts are often hinged on several interlinked factors, including poverty and disease, poor governance and corruption, human rights violations, ethnic marginalization, and small arms proliferation. Mr. Speaker, the literature points to poor understanding of the fundamental sources of violent conflicts in West Africa. Hence, civil strife will probably continue to promote the experience and suffering of destructive wars in West Africa. However, some of these contemporary destructive threats are essentially old issues with new levels involving the challenges of exclusion, marginalization, corruption, clientelism, etc., rendering extra military dictators susceptible to internal contestations over their legitimacy. Mr. Speaker, actors including the Ecowas, civil society, and the international community continue to make significant efforts, but destructive conflicts remain a problem in the sub-region, with their resolution most often than not protracted. Mr. Speaker, situations are fragile as ECOWAS appears to be disjointed in its own institutions and struggling in her quest to implement its moratorium on the importation, exportation, and manufacturing of small arms into a binding convention, as nation states are unable to ensure compliance with existing arms restrictions. We all need to put our shoulders to the wheel and support the government to build capacities of national and cross-border institutions to consolidate peace in the areas of political and economic governance and the rule of law across Africa and within the sub-region. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, as we celebrate Ghana's election onto the United Nations Security Council and the moral and political obligation it places on us, we should also see it as a call to curb the alarming resurgence of emerging coup d'etats on our continent intended to compromise our collective existence, survival, and progress. These multiple coup d'etats recently described by Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, as an epidemic of coup d'etats must be nipped in the bud with all the strength and might needed. Ghana must lead this charge. Her shining example must lead the way as we ourselves continue to put in the rightful interventions and safeguards to further deepen and fortify our democratic gains. Our election onto the Security Council in these trying times is a clear testament to our peaceful coexistence and time-tested democratic credentials of about 3 decades. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the space granted me. I am eternally grateful. Thank you.
Very well. Let me start from the back. I'll give each one of you the opportunity. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is gratifying that our dear nation has been counted among the 50 nations in the Committee of Nations constituting the United Nations Security Council. And so it's delight that in this year and the next year, Ghana will be at the table where decisions are making in such important and powerful situation. Indeed, when you hear the likes of Russia, China, the United States, and others, and Ghana being counted among them, it is really gratifying that our nation is involved in that, and really at the table where those important decisions will be made. When you look at the scene of the international security and peace issues, generally the focus is more on the peacekeeping mission. And as a result, probably developing countries are interested in this because at least they get some resources which are critical for their upkeep. But I think where we are going in terms of human security and the rule of law and all of that, making it possible for nations to live together and live along, even as soldiers are marshaled at the borders of Russia and Ukraine, is a cause for concern. And it is important that a nation as small and probably under-resourced like Ghana could be at the table where these decisions will be made. But looking broadly at their mission and the mandate, alongside what we have experienced here with the Kofi Annan Center for Peacekeeping, it is important that we are counted among these nations. The Kofi Annan Center for Peace and Security have significant programs that we know members in this House have actually subscribed to them. Issues with technology, small arms, gender, displacement, crisis management, all of those things constitute a significant part of what it takes to really equip a country. But it appears that in our bid for peacekeeping, all the time our efforts are ad hoc. As a result, a systematic, consistent process in these developing countries are not really presented. We only jump to the situation, to the occasion when we have crisis, as we mentioned, the political issues in Mali and the other places around us. So, Mr. Speaker, we would like to see the stability of these countries around, especially the developing countries, so that the peace we are seeking for is not something that we jump to, but really there are processes. And those processes are both civil and not only in terms of armed struggle and preserving the peace through peacekeeping. We have significant cross-border issues within the African continent, the Nigeria and Cameroon crisis, and for many other countries, we know various ethnic groups have been split into two or several by different countries. When I cross the border to Côte d'Ivoire from my constituency, I basically speak the Anyi language, which is the same as the Awumi in Ghana. The only difference is the spelling by the French and the British. The bottom line is, do we see ourselves as brothers together? No. We have an orientation towards a European power, towards a European power of French, towards a European power of English. As a result of that, the cohesiveness that will exist among us are often broken. Our fronts are broken in doing things together. So, our opportunity to be at the Security Council should give Ghana some sense of clout to really contribute to continental peace, continental unity, and continental ability to marshal resources that are critical for our own well-being. And so, Mr. Speaker, I add my voice and thank the maker of the speech, of the statement, that we are excited about Ghana's place in where we are going to sit at the table with the big boys. But what we need to do beyond this is really to make a mark that is significant, systematic, and enduring as our nation thrives and as human security issues continue to be a concern in our continent. And with this, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member for Clotilde.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by the Honourable Member for Cardozo. Mr. Speaker, it's quite refreshing to see the level of objectivity in the statement, given the adverse position we all have with regards to coup d'etats in the sub-region. Indeed, the statement has pointed out a lot of the underlying causes and remote causes for what we are seeing as a new trend in the sub-region. Mr. Speaker, in addition to all the factors mentioned, the clear injustice with regards to the inequitable distribution of resources in various nation states is a big contributor to what we are witnessing across the sub-region and perhaps in many other countries across the world. It almost looks as though there's a certain dimension of democracy that is under threat, and it is under threat because the very pillars that are holding it up are being undermined by various regimes across the world. Mr. Speaker, the scramble for resources across our sub-region in particular seem to be driving certain levels of conflict which appear to be threatening to redefine some of the territorial borders of the countries across the sub-region and in the Sahel. Indeed, if one is to go back a little further than where we are now, the attack in Libya and the subsequent killing of Gaddafi was one of the dominoes that fell in this cascade that we're now witnessing as far to the west as we are now, in a whole trend that is becoming difficult for nation states to actually get a grip on. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that our national security strategy identified as a threat is the high youth unemployment in the sub-region in our country as well. And this is clearly related to the inability of our various states to absorb these young people who are out of school but do not have either the resources or the capacity to be employed by the various sectors that exist, which shows a big divide between the training institutions and the job market. Mr. Speaker, given the fact that we have such a young population on the continent, Ghana's role on the Security Council is so crucial because that input with regards to what the dangers that we see on our horizon are and suggestions on how to resolve these have never been more important. Mr. Speaker, the United Nations, as we know, was formed after the League of Nations failed to prevent another world war. And as far as global governance is concerned, the UN is as close as one gets to a body that oversees what's happening globally. Nonetheless, a lot of countries still go about doing what they do regardless of certain resolutions and certain treaties that they have signed on to and have ratified. Mr. Speaker, this is a trend that is worrying, but amongst other things is the importance of us moving a step away from only monitoring elections to monitoring what happens in between elections, because a lot of countries have elections and don't actually make it to the next round of elections because of what happens in between. And so at this point, Ghana's role is so crucial by setting an example and also by providing suggestions on how other countries could ensure that they succeed from one election to the other, not just as a superficial event, but as an event that is supported by the people and is going to make sure that there's sustainable development in their various nation states, to decrease the vacuum that is created that's making room for what we're seeing as the violent extremism as well as the coup d'etats across this continent. Mr. Speaker, this position that Ghana holds is one that's of great importance and would be important that we show by example in our very own territory how we uphold the rule of law and how we maintain security and our territorial integrity. This is a chance for Ghana to indeed shine and prove that the democracy that we celebrate here is one that is not just superficial, but one that is enduring. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honorable Kudeta Blanca first. Oh, I didn't see you earlier. I'll come to you.
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement, which has been very well rendered by my respected colleague, the Honorable Dr. Kingsley Nyako, the MP for Kwadaso. Mr. Speaker, the statement celebrates Ghana's election to the United Nations Security Council. I must put on record, Mr. Speaker, that the maker of the statement has been very modest in celebrating Ghana's emergence. The records must reflect that Ghana emerged first in the elections. Indeed, out of the 190 member states who voted at the General Assembly that day, on the 11th of June 2021, Ghana secured 185 votes out of the 190 votes. 185 votes. It's one of the highest electoral outcomes for UN Security Council recorded at the United Nations. And Mr. Speaker, this is a feat that as Ghanaians, as nationalists, as patriots, we all have to be proud of. It shows that we are well regarded in the Committee of Nations. It is also an attestation that the previous times we served on the UN Security Council in 1962, in 1986, and in the year 2000, we excelled. And so the international community is always happy to see us return to the United Nations Security Council. So we must commend all our successive governments since the first government under the leadership of the Osagifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, for blazing the trail and for maintaining very high standards at the United Nations. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, that we are one of the very, very few countries in Africa that has produced a United Nations Secretary General in the person of the Busumuru himself, the late Kofi Annan, may his soul rest in peace. We've produced great diplomats like His Excellency Kwesi Saki, who continues to be a role model for a lot of African diplomats in New York at the United Nations. Mr. Speaker, we are going to occupy this position at a time that there are so many challenges. The maker of the statement has elucidated on some of these challenges, particularly the emergence of coups in the sub-region. But Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of intractable global challenges as well. The conflicts in Haiti continue, in Myanmar, in Afghanistan. The Taliban are back in power, and gender rights, rights of our women, education, and other opportunities are now threatened again, is back in the spotlight. Mr. Speaker, the conflict in Yemen continues. The conflict in Libya, which has spilled over and created all the challenges we have in the Sahel. The increasing number of violent extremists. Mr. Speaker, only this week we saw international reports about how a number of young ISIL fighters who have been arrested were mostly from West Africa, including, rather troubling, our own country. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a time that the world is confronted with enormous challenges. I will be remiss if I do not highlight climate change, if I also do not highlight the pandemic, which we have not defeated. Many of the wealthy nations have attained herd immunity. They have laid hands on vaccines. They have even excess vaccines that they donate to countries that they are friendly with. But many countries that are in the vulnerable category, in the poor categorization, Mr. Speaker, still do not have vaccines. So vaccine apartheid continues. So this is a time of enormous global challenge. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues to rage, and many women and children are being slaughtered in that intractable conflict. So we ascend this position at a time of enormous challenges. But as the maker of the statement has said, the Speaker, we have what it takes. We have shown, even during the era of the Cold War, that we can be a country that offers hope for peace, for unity, for reconciliation. So when others were looking east or west, we said that we would look only forward. We will not be caught up in the Cold War conflict of that era. So, Mr. Speaker, our history is there to guide us, and I am really confident that our tenure from 2022 January to December 2023 is one that we can make a difference. I'm hoping that the vexed issue of UN reforms will also be pursued. We cannot continue to have a Cold War era United Nations where 5 member states will hold the sway and just one of them can hold the entire United Nations hostage. We really need reforms, and I'm hoping that as the current UN Secretary General Guterres has made it one of his key priority areas to reform the United Nations, I'm hoping that he will succeed, and this team of UN Security Council members will support him in that regard, so we can have a more democratized union. So that what happened, for example, last month on the 12th of January, when the UN Security Council was supposed to take a vote on the coups in the sub-region, and there was a stalemate because Russia and China they vetoed the statement. And so as we speak, UN has not been able to endorse the efforts of ECOWAS so far. And we are seeing that all kinds of geopolitical maneuverings are taking place with Russia, China in the region. France is having its own challenges. And in the process, the terrorists, the violent extremists are having a field day because the global community cannot unite and cannot put differences aside and combat violent extremism, terrorism, poverty, conflicts, the pandemic, and all of these issues, including climate change, which we all agree are urgent matters that must be resolved as quickly as we can. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I would also want to pay glowing tribute to our troops who have helped us to maintain the high reputation that we have. It is our troops who serve in all of these theaters of conflict as UN peacekeepers. And it is they who have excelled, who have been professional when other countries have run away. The story of Rwanda is well known. The story of Liberia is well known. When many other nationals, many other peacekeepers have virtually fled, our troops, the gallant men and women of the Ghana Armed Forces, have stayed the course. And that is why consistently we have been amongst the top 10 UN troop contributing nations. And Mr. Speaker, we can only urge men and women in uniform to continue to make us proud, to continue to fly high the flag of Ghana and offer that hope that they offer to the world. May we maintain our high regard and very high esteem in the Committee of Nations. We wish our representatives at the UN well, our permanent rep, and the team that will be serving and supporting the Foreign Minister at the UN Security Council. We wish them the very best, and they should know that Ghana is rallying behind them, and we expect nothing but excellence. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I commend the maker of the statement.
Honourable Minister, I intended that you have the last word. All right. Oh, somebody on the street here, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make some contribution. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to a statement that was ably delivered by my friend and colleague, the MP for Kwadaso, Dr. Kingsley Nyap. Mr. Speaker, the UN Security Council is a body of the United Nations responsible for peace, the international peace and security. And it's an important body that regulates whatever we do in the area of peace and security across the world. The UN Security Council has 15 members, 5 permanent and 10 non-permanent that rotates periodically. The 5 permanent members include the United Kingdom, the United States, Britain, Russia, China, and France. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is going back to the UN Security Council for the third time. In 1960, when Ghana got to the United Nations Security Council, Congo was in flames. Africa had conflicts. In 2006, when Ghana returned to the UN Security Council for the second time, Darfur was in flames, South Sudan was in conflict. Today, in 2021, Ghana is going back to the UN Security Council again, and coup d'etats are re-emerging, threatening the peace and security of the sub-region and Africa as a whole. I want to commend the maker of the statement and to say that for the third time that we are going back to the UN Security Council, it is very appropriate if Africa can also fight for a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. It is not magic that the 5 permanent members have remained permanent up to date. It is possible for Africa to have a representation in the UN Security Council as permanent member. Mr. Speaker, the statement that was made, there is a paragraph in there that quite excites me. It's talking about small arms and light weapons that threatens peace and security around the world. UN Security Council Resolution 2117 tried as much as possible to address this issue, and as a member of the United Nations, it is only appropriate that we look at this Security Council resolution and try as much as possible to curb the tide in our own sub-region. Because the many conflicts that we suffer over the period has really brought proliferation of small arms and light weapons, and is gradually resulting in the increase of armed robbery, is resulting in the increase of banditry activities, and is resulting in the increase of pride among many who have these weapons without legal cover. Mr. Speaker, to conclude very briefly, it is important for us to note that the UN Security Council honors Ghana so much because of what we have done over the years in the peace and security industry, especially in peacekeeping operations. If you go out there, Ghana is held high in the area of peacekeeping. And that is why it's not surprising for me, as the maker of the statement made it clear, Ghana is being considered as the arrowhead in Africa. And that is why many times when Ghana is deemed to be the most peaceful country in the sub-region, it doesn't surprise many of us. Because our men and women in uniform, anytime they are out there, their performance is always exemplary. And Mr. Speaker, I can attest to that the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Armed Forces, the Ghana Immigration Service, anytime you find them in the international arena, the professionalism of Ghana is always brought to bear. The United Nations has 3 core values: integrity, professionalism, respect for diversity and gender. And Ghana as a nation ought to learn and imbibe these core values to ensure that our democracy is maintained and sustained getting into the future. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this statement. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by the member for Kwadaso. Mr. Speaker, the statement is an invitation thrown at this House to celebrate Ghana's membership of the UN Security Council. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement indicated rightly that this is the 4th time Ghana has become member of the UN Security Council. But Mr. Speaker, what is the role of the UN Security Council such that having now become a member, we should be celebrating ourselves? And Mr. Speaker, one of the contributors to this statement has indicated that the role of the Security Council is to maintain international security, peace, and order. That being the case, Mr. Speaker, we need to ask ourselves, how has the UN Security Council fared over the period that it has been in existence, such that we should be celebrating our membership of such a body? Mr. Speaker, my brother, the Honorable Okujeto, gave us quite a number of examples of worrying international developments that ought to have engaged the attention of the UN Security Council. And he referred to, for instance,
issues that have to do with terrorist insurgency and what the response of the UN Security Council has been. Mr. Speaker, I would like to observe that one of the main achievements of the UN Security Council has been that following its establishment, at least it has been able to prevent the world from experiencing a third world war. That is its main achievement. Beyond that, Mr. Speaker, I do not think the UN Security Council has achieved a lot. Why do I say so? This is a body which is largely undemocratic. Undemocratic in the sense that you have 5 member countries that wield what is known as veto power. Now we are part of the non-permanent membership. What it means is that our vote does not count when it matters most. When the 5 permanent members decide that, look, a decision will not inure to their national interest, Mr. Speaker, our vote does not count. At the moment, Mr. Speaker, Russia is amassing troops along the Ukrainian border in preparation to invade that country in violation of the sovereignty of Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, what has been the response of the UN Security Council? Its response is nothing to write home about, because Russia is a country that wields the veto power. And so any decision to prevent Russia or to even critique it would attract the veto, the exercise of the veto. And so, Mr. Speaker, like Honorable Okujeto rightly pointed out, if we do not reform the UN, our membership of the Security Council is not going to yield a lot of dividend. And so I'd rather we focus our strengths on bodies such as the Ecowas, the AU, where Ghana can also claim a lot of power and influence. And when we do so, Mr. Speaker, I am sure that some of the nagging issues that have developed and continue to evolve within our sub-region, such as the emergence of coup d'etats, could be dealt with. And so I would like to ask, and the maker of the statement actually made reference to ECOWAS and its role in resolving the emergence of coups in our sub-region in recent times. What has been the response of the economic community of West African states? Mr. Speaker, the response of ECOWAS has not been preemptive. It has not been preventive at all. Rather, what ECOWAS prefers to do is to Mr. Speaker, constitute itself into a reactionary body. So they wait when coups occur, then the authority of heads of states convene a meeting in Accra under the chairmanship of our own President Akufo-Addo, and the next moment sanctions are imposed. Sanctions, Mr. Speaker, affect the ordinary citizens of country. Sanctions most of the time do not affect the political elite. And so, Mr. Speaker, the point I am seeking to make is that ECOWAS should fill the gap that the UN Security Council has failed to fill over the period. And when they do, I am confident that we'll be able to deal with the emergence of coups in our sub-region. For instance, Mr. Speaker, we all sat back, watched helplessly when the former President Alpha Condé was manipulating the constitution of Guinea. ECOWAS said nothing. When innocent civilians thronged the streets to demonstrate against the manipulation, the attempts to amend the constitution to give President Alpha Condé the right to contest for a third time, ECOWAS said nothing. And then finally the military decided to intervene. After the intervention, ECOWAS suddenly discovered its voice. Mr. Speaker, that cannot be the way to go. ECOWAS must be preemptive. It must seek to prevent the occurrence of coups and ensure that in the sub-region, good governance, compliance with democratic values and norms is respected by all without fear or favor. What happened in Burkina Faso recently is a wake-up call for the rest of us who still have democratic governments and experiments in place. Mr. Speaker, terrorism has been staring Burkina Faso in the face for a very long time. And we need to ask, what has been the response of the economic community of West African states? In times past, when Liberia went to civil war, Sierra Leone, ECOWAS through ECOMOC intervened militarily, even at a time when they said ECOWAS did not have the mandate to intervene because Liberia and Sierra Leone were sovereign states. They nevertheless intervened. Today, Burkina Faso, next door Burkina Faso is boiling. What is our response? And the Minister of Defense is here.
Honorable Chairman, you have, ranking member, you have veered off for too long. We are on Ghana's membership of
very well,
the
Mr. Speaker, let me come back home.
Please come back home.
Let me come back home. And so, Mr. Speaker, in contributing to this statement, I'd like to state that Ghana has distinguished itself as a member of the UN, one of the largest peacekeeping contributing countries in the whole world, the 10th largest troop contributing country. Mr. Speaker, as a government, maybe we should continue to retool our armed forces and the police service, position them in such a way that we can even contribute more to international peacekeeping, because these days, beyond restoring peace and order in conflict-stricken countries, Mr. Speaker, our role in international peace support operations also improves or supports our economy in one way or the other because of the end dollar syndrome. The end dollar, Mr. Speaker, troops deployed to international peacekeeping operations, at least their livelihoods improve. While serving there, they earn the dollar. And so as a country, we could take full advantage and deploy more. I know, and the Minister for Defense will confirm this, that the UN is very happy to engage Ghana to deploy more troops. With those few words, Mr. Speaker, I commend the maker of the statement.
Honorable Minority, if you wish to contribute, take that, then I go to the Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to comment on the statement ably made by Dr. Kingsley Nyako, the MP for Kwadaso, and to commend him for bringing to the fore and on the floor of Parliament our need to commend Ghana and its leadership, particularly the Foreign Minister and all those workers at the UN who have worked in quiet diplomacy, probably to borrow from the words of Article 99 of the UN Constitution, using their good offices for Ghana to be recognized as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. And Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement challenges us that what do we want to achieve and what will Ghana do to promote global peace and security. Mr. Speaker, again, whilst commending him, the truth be told that post the Cold War of 1990s, following the charm offensive of Mikhail Gorbachev and others, then president of the Soviet Union, which heralded the end of the Cold War, we are still not out of the woods yet. And as was observed by earlier speakers, even today as we speak, there is threat to global peace and security with the worrying developments in Ukraine. It's taken the leader of France to engage in the last 48 hours, both Russia and the rest of the world, to have some understanding that the threat of war does not itself result in a hot war in the world. We need to work to prevent it. But Mr. Speaker, the UN Security Council has a primary obligation to promote peace. Is there peace in the world? I mean, if you take Libya today and you look back at Muammar Gaddafi Libya and the state of Libya today, and you look back to Iraq, a Saddam Hussein Iraq, and the developments in Iraq, what has the UN done? If you recall what happened in the 1980s following the invasion of Kuwait by them. But Mr. Speaker, what we have seen is a near collapse of those states following the abysmal performance of the UN and the Security Council. Because, Mr. Speaker, as is quoted by one writer, the only area where the UN have made significant progress beyond the Declaration of Human Rights, beyond decolonization, is in the establishment of those other important institutions such as the one responsible for economic and social rights. You also have UNICEF, which has made significant achievement in that enterprise. And then you have the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, and then the UN agency responsible for population affairs, and even more importantly, the United Nations Development Program, which have facilitated the growth of emerging democracies. But, Mr. Speaker, let me refer to a paragraph in Dr. Kingsley Nyaku's statement where he expresses concern about Africa, and particularly the emergence of coup d'etats. Mr. Speaker, page 3. In his second paragraph, he states, and just for emphasis, although forceful conflicts seem to be declining in the sub-region, recent insurgencies in the Sahel region affecting Mali, Niger, Mauritania, and Burkina Faso, unquote. What is the state of democracy in Burkina Faso today? They are undemocratic. The military have taken over, suspended the constitution. I pray that never happens to Ghana. But that means that we must build strong and viable institutions, not just political, but institutions that are accountable and will be accountable to this parliament. But, Mr. Speaker, we chair Ecowas. What is Ecowas doing about those worrying undemocratic developments in those countries? They go for their meetings, and what we hear is ineffective sanctions. The sanctions are just not working. So there's a problem, probably with our governance model. And as many have argued, this winner take away all. We have to relook at it and re-examine it as a country as we go forward. Mr. Speaker, poverty still remains a problem which affects global peace and global security. And the superpowers, Mr. Speaker, we should have no hesitation. We may not be able to say it. They serve their interests, not our interests. America serves its interests, France serves its interests, and then Russia serves its interests, and China serves its interests. Currently, even what is going on in Ukraine, you've seen the strong partnership between China and Russia, meaning that they are standing against all others. And then, Mr. Speaker, whilst we commit to the pursuit of this, even Ghana, the pursuit of our foreign policy, we have a relationship with China. I'm hearing some worrying developments about some persons having to deal with Taiwan. That is against Ghana's foreign policy pursuit. We know China. We know one China. So when you begin to relate to Taiwan, in what capacity and in what standard? Mr. Speaker, I conclude, in the pursuit of foreign policy, partisanship ends at the water's edge. That is why significantly in many of these matters, there is no significant departure in the pursuit of foreign policy by President Nana Akufo-Addo than what his predecessor presidents did. Mr. Speaker, one of the beautiful things of this country today is foreign service officials. Apart from the Ghana Armed Forces, they behave in a manner that they are neutral and don't wear partisan caps. We have to encourage them to begin to serve the state, and that is important. I see the whip is worried about my citing of China. I have documentary evidence. When we are done, I'll share something with you about somebody traveling to Taiwan and signing something, whether the president is aware or the foreign minister is aware or not aware. I'm just saying that Ghana must be wary what we do which can anger China. Because like it or not, they are a stalwart of an international partner you need. So, Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to commend the maker of the statement. But reforms, as the Honorable Ablakwa said, the UN must reform itself, even the superpower status. Why? They should give some of the poor countries the superpower position. But you see, we have no muscle. You don't have a dollar, you don't have a euro, you don't have a pound. We can't bite. And then they say our governance is not good enough. But, Mr. Speaker, we have good land. Our land area in Africa is good enough. And I think that when we say reforms, my primary concern about reforms of the UN is that, and as Dr. Kingsley has observed, these sustainable development goals, given COVID, we cannot achieve the targets we set for ourselves into 2063. So I hope that with Ghana taking this permanent position, we will support democratization and its sustenance, not just in Africa, but globally. We will also contribute to the maintenance of global peace, not just by sending peacekeeping operations abroad, but ensuring that, as is observed by one international expert, the absence of war is not peace. We must avoid things that would endanger the peace of the world. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm not particularly happy with the UN Security Council. And they show too much bias openly in serving their interests and their allies in the pursuit of global peace, and sometimes in search of resources in those other countries, not because they love them. And I've given you good examples. Is it not better if you look at Libya today, look at Iraq yesterday, look at it 10 years back? What was it? So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to really thank the maker of this well-researched paper. Very short clips, straight to the point, and making the very points that any good researcher will make on a very interesting and sensitive topic like this particular one. Mr. Speaker, Ghana must be proud of itself that 4 times the countries around the world felt Ghana was worthy enough to serve as a member of the 50-member body of the United Nations Security Council. Of course, 5 members are permanent and 10 members are non-permanent. And you have to go through an election to get yourself elected. Ghana has done that on 4 occasions, and that is very, very commendable. This is the highest and most important body within the UN. It's supposed to guide the UN in ensuring the security and safety of its members. And if Ghana has gotten the opportunity again to serve for 2 years, from January 2022 and ending in December 2023, Ghana has made it its policy to focus on things that will promote peace and security around the world, particularly that of Africa and West Africa, Mr. Speaker. But even before I delve into the statement to thank members for all the good statements and positive contributions that they have made, I want to state on record that Ghana has a foreign policy of ensuring that they do not interfere in matters of Taiwan and China. We recognize China and we will continue to recognize China. Whatever an individual has done in China or in Taiwan, it is not the position of the government of Ghana. It's like saying that people or businessmen who are United States citizens going to North Korea to do business or sign agreements. It's not binding on government, it will never be binding on government. And we have our policy clear cut. Of course, this has come to the attention of government before, but we are making it very clear the government has never and will not change its position on what it has always stood for in the relationship between Taiwan and China. But after saying this, Mr. Speaker, as I said, it is important that members begin from home. We should take advantage of the position we have today to ensure that Ghana continues to remain a peaceful country. That is our trump card. That is what is making Ghana Ghana, and that is what is making us attractive. Mr. Speaker, it behoves on members of this particular house, on both sides of the house, to put themselves in a situation and in a way that will ensure that Ghana remains peaceful. What you say, what you do, your actions and your actions will either contribute to Ghana exploding or remaining peaceful. Government is very focused to ensure that Ghana continues to remain peaceful as far as we continue to be in government. But I want to plead that all of us have a great responsibility to leave Ghana as a very peaceful country as our forefathers left it for us. Mr. Speaker, today Ghana has become the toast of the world, not just in peacekeeping, not just in business, but even democracy. Mr. Speaker, it was just for you to be at the event hosted by the President yesterday and listen to the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps make a statement about their view about Ghana. I will urge the Minister of Information to play that statement to the people of Ghana to hear what the international community view Ghana as a state, and we'll be proud of ourselves. We may do the internal politics, but we should be careful not to do that politics and paint a picture as if Ghana is breaking up. It's not, and it will not. The people around the world are proud of what we are doing here, and we should be proud of ourselves. But like I said, West Africa is burning around us. Mali is having problems. Guinea is having problems. There are problems in Togo, there are problems in Niger, there are problems in Burkina, there are problems in northern Ivory Coast, there are problems in northern Benin, there are problems in Nigeria. Ghana is not immune, but as we see today, Ghana is not at the level of these countries. And that is why you have a lot of visitors trooping into Ghana, because they say Ghana is safe. And like I said, Ghana will continue to be safe. We, on our part, are doing everything to ensure that Ghana continues to be safe. As I said, we are putting 15 operating bases for the military up north to safeguard us. And not just the military. We are doing same for the immigration, to give them 15 permanent posts across the northern belt to save us. Mr. Speaker, not just that, we are investing in the southern part of this nation to put Navy facilities along the coast to ensure that both our offshore and inshore facilities are safe. Very soon, Mr. Speaker, we are bringing enough funds, not just enough funds, but we are bringing funds to secure our exclusive economic zone by procuring 2 OPVs and 10 patrol boats for the Navy to ensure that Ghana is safe. But like I said, why I'm not dwelling on the fact that Ghana needs to be safe. You cannot transport peace when your nation is burning. Ghana cannot lead at the level of the world if our country is burning. That is the reason why it behoves on all of us to give this government our maximum support to ensure that Ghana continues to remain peaceful and exclude and export peace around the world. Ghana has been invited again to take up 2 extra peacekeeping missions around the world by the United Nations, Sudan and Central African Republic. We will go there. We have accepted the challenge. We have mobilized the resources. We have bought the equipment, and we'll be going there. So I can assure the ranking member that, yes, Ghana will continue to send people around the world to bring peace to the world. It is not because of the end dollar. No. We are exporting our values to the rest of the world. We are exporting what we know best. And what we know best is to ensure that we are peaceful, we are welcoming, and that we will always continue to make Ghana proud. But Mr. Speaker, the UN Security Council has a huge responsibility to keep the world together. The world, with the effects of COVID, where prices of goods and services around the world is ballooning. Go to Belgium, the United Kingdom, the United States. Petrol prices are going up. Goods and services are going up. For the first time, some countries have seen goods and services rise up for more than 40% that they have never seen in their lives before. But in this country, we are managing and managing well. It may not be easy. Of course, people may say, oh, things are going up, but it may not be easy. But Ghana is really a haven to many countries. If you check around West Africa and what they say and what they come to Ghana to see for themselves, they will exchange anything and everything to become Ghanaians at this particular time. That is why I am proud. And as members have said, and I've heard all my members say, that I am proud that Ghana has been given this opportunity again by becoming the highest country to get 185 votes out of 190 votes to sit on the United Nations Security Council seat. It tells you the confidence that the rest of the world have in Ghana. It tells us the confidence that the rest of the world have in the leadership that Ghana is bringing. And that's why I get worried when members of this house, I get worried when people, especially members of parliament, put up a behavior that the people of Ghana begin to talk negatively about us. It worries all of us. I always tell the soldiers, when you wear the uniform, know that the people of Ghana expect you to behave in a certain way. It's the same thing I will tell members of parliament. The moment you get elected as a member of parliament, the people of Ghana expect you to behave in a certain way. And these are the only things that will ensure that Ghana becomes peaceful. Because none of us, in fact, almost all of us, had people queuing midnight, mid-afternoon, and mid-morning to vote for us. And they have so much belief that we will represent their faces, because all of them cannot be in this room. 31 million Ghanaians cannot come to this room. So they have chosen us to represent them. It is for us to ensure that Ghana remains peaceful. What we do here is the only thing that can guarantee our safety. And I tell you, if the members of parliament decide that Ghana will be a very peaceful and quiet country, so it will be. If they decide that they're going to create mayhem in this country, so it will be. So I want to urge members of parliament to put whatever differences we have amongst ourselves and say that over the next 10 to 20, 40 years, we want to chart a path, Mr. Speaker, that will make Ghana the eye of the world, the Switzerland of the Switzerland of Europe, the Dubai of the Middle East. Ghana should be in that form. We may not build it overnight, but we can achieve it. And so I want to thank the minority leader and the majority leadership for all that we have been doing together to continue to have and the support that they have. And I want to let the people of Ghana know that over the last 1 year, when it comes to security matters and retooling of the security services, the Parliament of Ghana has been one. And I think that I need to praise the Parliament of Ghana for that singular act. We realize the difficulties. And so when it comes to the retooling of the armed forces, comes to the retooling of the police force, the immigration force, the security services, Parliament has put their differences together and has always supported us to ensure that this continues. Like I said, we'll continue to bring whatever we need and whatever the soldiers and the police and the people need to guide us. We cannot let this nation down, and we should not let this nation down. And for the maker of this statement, I want to thank you for bringing this statement up. Mr. Speaker, we should celebrate as Ghanaians that the world believes that in post-COVID time, or even this COVID time, Ghana is one country that can lead the world. We may not know what we stand for, because we are who we are. But I say that the world believes in us. I've sat in a meeting in Brussels, and the permanent ambassadors read prepared speeches, and I had goose pimples on my face and my whole body because of what they said about Ghana. And I'm so proud to be a Ghanaian, and I think that we should all be proud to be Ghanaians. The maker has elucidated whatever that I would have said, went beyond what I have said, and I think that every member should get a piece of what he has said and read that statement carefully, so that tomorrow we can use it as the benchmark in trying to judge what we, the people of Ghana, will stand for at the UN Security Council. I want to thank all of you and assure you that Ghana will be made proud from the 1st of January 2022 to the 31st of December 2033, when we will serve on the UN Security Council. And if you have any suggestions, bring them. The Minister for Foreign Affairs will be willing to discuss with us to ensure that we make Ghana proud. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Very well. That is the end of this particular statement. Yes, Chief Group, what is your suggestion now? I see that the Minister has now come.
Speaker, as was agreed, we'll take the questions. But before then, Speaker, with your leave, if we can quickly go on to page 4, presentation of papers, and quickly take item 8. Speaker, with your leave, I'll seek your leave for the Deputy Minister of Finance to do that on behalf of the Minister of Finance, after which we can take the questions.
Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, understandably, the whip assured us that the Minister for Trade will be here to answer questions. I see him abandon some presidential campaign for the time being to be in the chamber to respond to members' questions. I wish you well, but not all the people here wish you well. You should know that, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, whilst I'm on, Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking your leave.
Once again out of order.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, once he's asking for you to vary the order of business, myself and him, the whip, together with Deputy Leader and the Deputy Clerk, received a petition from the concerned Ghanaians about their protests against the senior nuisance tax called the e-levy, which they presented to us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what your guidance would be, whether I should be seeking to invoke Order 76 to table the petition, or you wanted to go to Right Honourable Speaker for it to be referred, so that the content of it will be looked into much more thoroughly. Mr. Speaker, because the public is watching us, we need to be responsive. So a petition was received on your behalf by the leadership of the House, by a section of the Ghanaian public demonstrating and protesting against the senior nuisance tax called the e-levy. And they have so presented a petition to us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so I want your guidance on the matter, whether I have your leave to lay the paper, or you wanted to walk through Right Honourable Speaker for the needed guidance, or I come under Order 76 of our standing orders, Mr. Speaker, for it to be looked into as a petition, looking at. They always say that they are ready for the debate on these matters. When you have the economy tottering at the precipice of bankruptcy and you still say all is well, and Habib's Dr. Baumia thinks that arresting the depreciation of the city is like stopping a trot between Wulugu Junction and Janga Junction. You understand that it is not just imagined. Mr. Speaker, back to the serious matter of the petition. Thank you.
Well, on the petition, I requested the leaders to receive it on behalf of Mr. Speaker. I've looked at the petition. It is addressed to Mr. Speaker. I think the appropriate location is hand it over to the person to whom it is intended. Then he will give directions as to how to deal with it. That's my suggestion. Yes.
Speaker, I will yield to you on any day. And as I listen to my respected minority leader, except to add that he was represented by the Honorable Abeji, and I represented the majority leader. But I saw significant leadership of the National Democratic Congress Party. I saw the national chairman and the national organizer.
Can we move forward to?
Let's
move forward to their request.
If it was a decision by the minority for the demonstrators to be led by the leadership of the National Democratic Congress, I was a bit surprised that it was just the leadership of your party, national leadership, who were leading it. It was a bit amazing.
Thank you. Let's move on. You have business pending.
So
yes, you said we should vary the order of business and take item 8A.
If you indulge me a second, with the greatest of respect, Speaker, in this House, we always defer to you. I heard my good friend make a very strange comment that those of us here do not wish the respected trade minister well. I think that should be expunged, seriously. I know maybe he said it out of amusement, but Speaker, we take strong exception.
I rule that was out of order.
And so it's expunged from the record.
Yes.
Indeed.
Item 8A, Honorable Deputy Minister for Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I come under Order 132 to seek your leave and the indulgence of the House to withdraw the Exemptions Bill 2021, which was laid before this August House on 16th November 2021, and with your liberty to relay at the appropriate time or as determined by your good self in accordance with the law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Before I consider leave, does anybody have objection to granting them leave to withdraw? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our colleague, the deputy minister, didn't say much why she was withdrawing and whether there's any intention for replacement. We needed to have clarity why she's trying to withdraw this bill, because, Mr. Speaker, as you may know, this is one of the bills that we have been canvassing that we should even try to work on it as quick as possible, because it is going to help save a lot of resources for the Minister of Finance to be able to run government projects. So if she's withdrawing it, it will only fair that she gives us some more explanation why she wants to withdraw. Is she even relaying what has caused for this to be withdrawn? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, majority bench. Do you have any comment on the application?
Speaker, I know my able Deputy Finance Minister is capable of handling this. So, if you may, Speaker, invite her to.
You don't have a comment yourself.
No, not necessarily.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I said, with your indulgence, I would like to relay. But we made some substantial amendments to certain clauses, and we felt it was better for us to relay. And that is why I seek your indulgence to do exactly so. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm really very sorry. I didn't hear the part that she was relaying. I thought she was just withdrawing, so I'm sorry.
Very well. Leave is granted to withdraw the Exemptions Bill 2021. The referral to the Committee on Finance is consequentially withdrawn. Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I would like to amend it to Exemptions Bill 2021 to Exemptions Bill 2022.
Very well.
An act to regulate the application of tax exemptions and other exemptions and to provide for related matters.
The Exemptions Bill 2022 is presented for the first time and is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, we may now go on to the questions. It's your leave.
Very well. Honorable Minister for Trade and Industry, you may now take your seat. The first question is in the name of the Honorable Member for Tamale Central. Question 407.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to seek your leave to carry out the request of my colleague for the Tamale Central constituency.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry the number of factories set up in the last 4 years under the One District, One Factory program, and how much government spent for their establishment. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the last 4 years, the government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, has facilitated the setting up of a total of 278 companies and projects across the 16 regions of our country. Out of this number, 106 companies are currently in operation. 148 are under construction and 24 are at the mobilization stage. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that the 1D1F initiative is private sector led but facilitated by government. The role of government includes payment of interest subsidy on loans that are granted to 1D1F companies by participating financial institutions, the granting of incentives such as waiver of import duties on capital goods and raw materials, and facilitation of access to infrastructure facilities such as electricity, water, and roads. Mr. Speaker, since the start of the program, government has successfully mobilized loans for 1D1F companies from the PFIs totaling an amount of 2.6 billion Ghana cedis. This amount has been leveraged through the disbursement of an amount of 260.9 million Ghana cedis by government as subsidy to de-risk loans and support interest payments for the beneficiary 1D1F companies and projects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to find out from the Minister when he says or when he explains that the initiative is private sector led but facilitated by government, and that the role of government includes payment of interest subsidy on loans granted to 1DF companies and projects by participating financial institutions, granting of incentives such as waiver or import duties on capital goods and raw materials, and facilitation of access to infrastructure such as electricity and water. How this is different from what private companies enjoyed under EDIF before its conversion into Exim Bank. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under the EDIF program, which is now operating as the Ghana Exim Bank, essentially, loans were granted to companies at a subsidized rate. But as the Honourable Member himself has read and re-echoed my statement, the support given by government to 1D1F companies go beyond the granting of subsidized loans. And as indicated in my statement, the government also grants incentives such as waiver of import duties on capital goods and raw materials, and then facilitating access to infrastructure facilities such as electricity, water, and roads. So this is in addition to what EDIF provides ordinarily to 1D1F companies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, with his vast experience, with the minister's vast experience in the development of private sector in this country, I'd like to find out from him which he thinks is more impactful as far as the growth of the private sector is concerned: granting subsidized loans or paying interest on loans that are acquired at higher interest by the private sector.
Did you understand him? I'm not sure I got him, but if you can. Or you want him to repeat? Yes. Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I got you. So.
Yes, I want to find out from the minister which is more impactful or meaningful to private sector growth in this country: supporting companies with subsidized loans or allowing the companies to take loans at high interest rate that government only subsidizes.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, the question is still a bit confusing. If I heard you right, you wanted to know granting subsidies for loans granted to companies as against higher interest rates paid by companies. Which of the two would be more impactful? Is that correct, Honourable Member?
Yes, that's the question.
Yeah. My understanding is that obviously subsidized loans will be more impactful because the cost of capital in Ghana makes companies in Ghana uncompetitive. Because if you compare interest rates in Ghana to even our neighboring countries, it is clear that the element of cost of capital is not favorable for Ghanaian companies in terms of productivity and competitiveness.
Yes, your last one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the very honest response of the minister when he states that what EDIF used to do is more impactful, even though at the time 1D1F signboards were not erected in front of the companies they supported. I thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, the trust of the sponsor of this question is on 1D1F. I wish to commend the minister. I am a witness to a number of achievements, and in some is a typical example, the nano foods. But my concern really has to do with the Speaker, my concern, which is a question, has to do with whether the concept of 1D1F has a component of market access inherent. Because one of the issues that have come up is whether the products being produced, we are assisting the producers to have market access. And I don't know if it's part of the concept.
Honorable Chief Whip, I think for this one you have to file your own question. Yes, I saw Honorable Member for Wa Central. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
just want to find out from the minister whether the 106 companies which he said are currently in operation, a list can be done and provided us. Because as chairman, as a ranking member for government assurance, I recall we went into the Greater Accra and Central region to find out whether government assurance that they are getting these factories established are in reality. Apart from one fruit factory we found in the Central region, all of them were set up before the 1D1F policy. And many of them said, well, they have supported us, but they did not facilitate their setting up. So, but the answer here is saying that government facilitated the setting up, but many of them were set up and government supported them. That's why I want to know whether you can provide us a 106 so that we can verify to know that you really set them up, because we don't believe that you set them up, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have with me here a list of not only the 106 companies that are currently in operation, but the 248 that are also under construction. So I can make that list available to the honorable member. But just to explain to the honorable member that the program concept does not only include facilitating the establishment of new companies, but it also facilitates the revamping and the restructuring of existing companies. Because the interest of government in introducing this program is first to be able to create jobs, particularly in the rural and peri-urban communities. And it makes sense for us where there's evidence of companies that are already existing, but require support for them to become competitive. Then it makes sense that we provide the same kind of support, rather than to leave those existing companies to die and then insist on setting up or supporting the private sector to set up new ones in the same district. So both qualify, existing companies that are in distress and then greenfield or new companies. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Milante first.
Right, Honorable Speaker. I want to ask the Minister, as a follow-up to this answer he's given. It tells me that job creation is a priority from what you are saying, but not comparative advantage. Not comparative advantage in the market or in the industry by job creation. Only job creation. The essence of the 1D1F.
He's asking whether the essence is only job creation and not what comparative or competitive advantage. Which one? Comparative advantage. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, enhancing the creation of jobs is only one of the strategic objectives of the program. It also stimulates economic development in our rural communities, and that helps to stem the drift of people from the rural communities to the urban centers. In addition to that, we are also seeking through this program to add value to the natural resource endowment of each district. By doing so, we can achieve two additional objectives. First, to promote import substitution, that is, producing goods locally that we currently import. And as the honorable member would know, if we reduce our import bill by producing goods that we import locally. That also helps us to save scarce foreign exchange. And by doing that, we also support our local currency. In addition to that, it also helps us to promote exports. And when you export more and you earn more foreign exchange, then you strengthen your own currency. And then also it is a source of attracting innovation and technology into our companies. So they are right, it's just that employment creation happens to be one of the most important strategic objectives, but the other objectives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the Minister's answer to Honorable Penpu, he said that they want to also support existing companies under the 1D, 1F. But if you go into your website, under your 10-point agenda for industrialization, you have stimulus package standing alone, and then 1D, 1F also standing alone. What happened, and I'm putting the two together? Are you running away from treating them separately as you had intended? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that the Honourable Member is paying very close attention to the work that we do in the ministry. The 10-point plan for industrial transformation includes supporting existing companies that are in distress. So that's what you are referring to as the stimulus package. And then you also have the One District, One Factory initiative. We have not merged the two. They are not mutually exclusive. As and when funds are made available through a budget appropriation, we will deploy resources to either of the two projects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister has alluded to the fact that the 1D, 1F is a private sector-led initiative. Now you realize that in our rural communities, especially districts that are predominantly rural, there's no incentive for the private sector to come up with this initiative. I want to find out from the Minister, what deliberate policy does he have in place to ensure that districts that are predominantly rural also benefit from this initiative? Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, in rural communities where no interest is shown by a business promoter, government has decided that we'll take a proactive stance and provide seed funding depending on the resources that are available to the ministry. Provide seed funding to establish initially a company for such a distressed district. And hopefully after a period of incubation, that it may be then attractive for a private sector promoter to then take up the shares in the company. So that is part of the program concept and principle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll give the last one to Kagalunko.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister in his answer said that one of the benefits or one of the aims is import substitution. I want to ask Mr. Minister whether import substitution thrives in a policy void and whether local production competing with cheap imports will thrive without the use of non-tariff barriers to support local industry. Is it clear?
No, it's not quite clear. Can you repeat it? Yeah. Repeat the question, it's not clear.
I said the minister in his answer said one of the objectives was import substitution. And I'm asking minister whether import substitution thrives in a policy void. And the void is amplified by the cheap imports we have and the absence of any attempt to use non-tariff barriers to protect local industry. Will it thrive in a policy void, Mr. Speaker?
How did you get him? I hope you got the question.
He understands, he knows the language we're talking.
Mr. Speaker, if I understand the Honourable member well, you want to know whether the policy of import substitution will thrive in a policy void. In the first place, I'm not sure that there's a case of policy void, because there is a comprehensive policy framework that underpins the industrial transformation agenda. Now, the issue of cheap imports is dealt with independently of the policy of import substitution. So if, for example, you are currently importing mosquito coils, and through 1D1F, you support a particular local entrepreneur to produce mosquito coils that otherwise will be imported. If there is evidence that there is dumping, in which case cheap imports that would cost the company that is producing locally in terms of not being competitive. There's the Ghana International Trade Commission that hears petitions from companies that are facing, let's say, dumping, cases of dumping. So that one will be dealt separately. But if you import substitute, you still have to be able to compete. If you do import substitution, you still have to be able to compete. And that is why the 1D1F is providing incentives like subsidized loans, waiver of taxes and duties and levies to make that import substitution company more competitive and to be able to compete against foreign imports. That is the essence of the package of services that supports 1D1F. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question at the leadership bench? Very well. Honourable Minister, we'll move on to the next question. The next question is the name of the honourable member for Ho Central. Question number 409. You may ask your question, please.
I had reason to ask a question on the answer provided to the 1DF.
Unfortunately,
1D1F.
Unfortunately, so many people have been up and down. You didn't get up for almost 30 minutes after.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I got up before you called Honorable.
Yes, I saw that, but he had been up and down so many occasions. You were sitting down. You came in at the very last minute and had decided that he would be the last one. So can I ask you a question?
No, that one too is important.
Important on your main question. Important on your main question. Yes. Can I ask you a question?
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry how much the ministry has realized from rental charges from 2017 to 2020 in respect of the following. Startup garment factory at 3 cedis per square meter. Existing garment factory at 5 cedis per square meter, III warehouse at 20 cedis per square meter, IV Tema Ministerial Building, the long room.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, between 2017 and 2020, the ministry realized an amount of 540,734 cedis 47 pesos from startup and existing garment factories. In addition to that, an amount of 675,067 cedis 22 pesos was also realized from warehouses, and an amount of 131,822 Ghana cedis 56 pesos was also realized from the Tema Ministerial building, otherwise referred to as the long room. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to find out from the Minister what was the legal basis for charging these rents.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, these charges had been in place for many years. When the attention of the ministry was drawn to the fact that they were not covered under the Fees and Charges Act, an application has been made to the Ministry of Finance with proposals to be considered for the inclusion of the fees that have been prescribed to be reflected in the Fees and Charges Act. Initially, my understanding before my term of office was that these revenue sources were considered as not part of the core mandate of the ministry. So, for example, IDF, import declaration forms, when they are sold, that constitutes a major part of the ministry's function. And so, properly speaking, the fees and charges for 1UNF are approved under the Act. The ministry ordinarily is not in the business of renting factory spaces. So that was the understanding. But we've made representations to the Ministry of Finance to consider even these non-core revenue sources to be reflected in the Fees and Charges Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I think from the minister's response, it's quite clear that the fees were illegal, but under his eyes, they were being collected. Would you agree with me? Because LI 2240 prescribed fees to be charged, but these fees were not captured in that LI, and he is admitting that he has now made proposals for the fees to be legalized. So will you agree with me that under his eyes, illegal fees were being charged by his ministry?
For what? Fees for what? I didn't get that part. Illegal fees for what service?
For the rent being charged for industrial properties of the Ministry of Trade and Industries.
Rent? Rent?
Yes.
Wow. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I'm unable to understand and appreciate the basis for the illegality. If there's no express provision in that particular act that makes reference to charges or fees that are collected, it does not make it illegal, particularly if payments from those transactions have been properly accounted for. So I'm not sure I agree with you about the illegality of the fees that have been collected. It just means that they were not considered as fees. They were not considered as fees or charges, so they don't come under the bracket of illegality. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I am not satisfied with that answer because the minister himself is saying that he has now made proposals to the Ministry of Finance for such charges to be captured under the Fees and Charges Act. So I do not see why he cannot appreciate that those charges being collected were illegal. They didn't come under the Fees and Charges Act. You are now making proposals. If you knew that they were not illegal, why are you now bringing them for consideration?
I thought you had finished, exhausted your three commenting. That's what I was looking at. But let's proceed. Yes, Honorable Nilante.
Right now, Speaker, I want to ask my minister, do the facilities at the GNTC, former GNTC building in my constituency, and also the one on the Kwame Nkrumah Avenue, the former GNTC, the former CAT, the former bottling company, and all these facilities, some of them which were turned into presidential special initiatives for garments and all these things, are they still paying rent to the Ministry of Trade and Industry?
Honorable Minister, if you wish to answer, whether because it has not come out of this question, but if you wish to answer, you may proceed. Otherwise, you may file your own question because you are asked to provide answers for specific premises, not. I said, if you want to answer, I'll give you that. But otherwise, I'll proceed to the next question, please.
Honorable Speaker, you may proceed.
Question number 412. In the name of the Honorable Member for Kwadaso, Dr. Kinsley Nyako. Honorable Member for Kwadaso, your question 412.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry the prospect of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and how the Ministry is leveraging on it to boost the Ghanaian economy. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, otherwise referred to as AFTA, creates a single market for Africa comprising over 1.3 billion people with a combined estimated GDP of $3 trillion United States dollars, and this is aimed at increasing trade between African countries. Mr. Speaker, the prospects of the AFTA include establishing economies of scale for enterprises operating in Africa, adding value to Africa's abundant natural resources, and promoting economic diversification and industrialization. It also includes developing Africa's regional value chains and facilitating cross-border investments, as well as the free movement of goods and services. It also attracts investments into Africa with strong regional and local content. And last but not the least, it enhances access to an expanded market for small and medium enterprises in Africa on preferential regional trade terms. Mr. Speaker, trading under AFTA commenced on the 1st of January 2021, and Ghana was the first country in Africa to export under AFTA. Mr. Speaker, a national AFTA coordination office was established in 2021, and in addition, a comprehensive national policy and action plan for the AFCFTA has been completed, aimed at assisting medium to large-scale companies in Ghana to export to AFTA markets. To this end, Mr. Speaker, 180 companies have been identified and are currently being programmed to export to markets under the AFCFTA. Mr. Speaker, the AFCFTA will enhance government's current industrial transformation agenda and contribute to the diversification of the Ghanaian economy in line with government's development agenda. Ghana Beyond Aid. Ghana will support the successful implementation of the AFCFTA for accelerated, inclusive growth and the development of our continent. Ghana will also enjoy many other collateral benefits which would enhance income levels of many Ghanaians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Well, Honourable Speaker, I'm grateful to the Honourable Minister for attending upon and responding to my question. I have two small questions, supplementary questions. The first one, I wanted to find out from the Minister if the identified companies have the capacity to meet both domestic and international demands, and if not, are there steps in place to achieve that? Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the National Program of Action to support companies is intended to provide capacity building and support to selected Ghanaian companies to meet not only the quality standards, but also to identify strategic markets for these companies. So this is precisely why we have a national plan of action to support companies to take advantage of the AFCFTA. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm grateful. Honourable Speaker, I also want to find out from the respected Minister if he knows the estimated projected percentage or number of potential jobs to be created to meet our unemployment challenges. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've made projections, but I would not like to place this on record because the process and procedure is first to identify the requirements of these companies, and then based on that we'll determine the volumes that they can produce and export. And that would, by extension, give us an idea of how many jobs they can create out of the support that is provided to the companies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful. I'm done.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask the Minister for Trade that last year the President of the African Development Bank hinted on the partnership between the African Development Bank Group and that of the AFTA. How is your ministry leveraging on this partnership to stimulate the industry, or if not the Ghanaian economy?
Which industry are you talking about? Kindly remove your mask so we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
I am asking that last year, the president of the African Development Bank Group hinted on a partnership between its agency and that of AFTA. So I'm asking that what is your strategy in leveraging on such a partnership for the Ghanaian economy?
Is that related to this question? You have a question, I suggest you file it separately. So now we're talking about AFTC, not General Trade Ministry, Business. So kindly, African Development Bank may come under him, but on this occasion it does not flow from this question.
Mr. Speaker, it was a partnership between African Continental Trade Agreement and that of African Development Bank Group. So I'm asking that what is Ghana as a country doing in leveraging on that partnership to build the Ghanaian economy?
You didn't make it come out as between African Development and AFTA.
I initially said after, so that was the mistake.
Yeah, you just said Africa. Now we are relating it to AFTC. Yes, Honorable Minister.
I'm guided.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the African Development Bank, as a development finance institution, is currently providing support to the AFCFTA Secretariat in terms of helping them finalize the negotiations. And Ghana, being one of the state parties to the agreement, is benefiting from that support that the ADB is providing to the AFCFTA. But at the national level, we are currently finalizing negotiations with the African Development Bank to provide funding support for our own national program, which would support and assist Ghanaian enterprises to be able to take advantage of the AFCFTA. So it's at two levels: the ADB supporting the AFCFTA Secretariat, and then the ADB supporting our own national action plan and program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cape Coast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank my Honorable Brother Dr. Nyako for asking this very important question. Mr. Speaker, in furtherance to leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Agreement to boost Ghana's economy, I want to find out from the Minister, early this year, that's January this year, the African Continental Free Trade launched a Pan-African payment and settlement system to enhance intra-Africa trade, that is to be able to settle cross-border transactions with one's own local currency without having to go through the dollar or look for the currency of the supplier. I know that a pilot was done last year and Ghana participated in it. You have mentioned here 180 companies that we are looking at in terms of participating in this intra-Africa trade transaction. Are any of these companies using this system at the moment in terms of settling transactions that is being done across border? And if you, how many of them, if we have any statistics? Or if you don't have in the present form, in the pilot that was done, how many Ghanaian companies participated? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Pan-African Payment Settlement Mechanism was piloted in the West African Economic Monetary Zone. But that is different from the national program that we are currently implementing. The companies that are being identified now to benefit from our national program are all in the process of being supported to be able to export specifically under the AFCFTA. So it is only when they are at the point of actually exporting that they would take advantage of the Pan-African Payment Settlement Mechanism. But the piloting was done independently of our own national program. But I'm fully convinced that at a point where our companies are ready to export under AFCFTA, they will have significant benefits from utilizing the Pan-African Settlement Mechanism. Because it means that you can now use local currency to be able to pay for goods that you import from another member state or state party of the AFCFTA without requiring foreign currency. And that is why the whole settlement platform is backed by the central banks of the state parties that are involved in the AFCFTA. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, you have the last one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Honorable Minister for Trade. From the fourth paragraph of his response, he indicates that the Comprehensive National Policy and Action Plan for AFTA has been completed. I want to find out from the Honorable Minister if members of Parliament can be given copies, if the policy document can be made available so we can all be brought up to speed. And related to that, Mr. Speaker, is the first paragraph on page 19. You also say that you are facilitating cross-border investments. But we know that there are challenges with border closures. How are you able to do that with the borders that remain closed? For example, the border with our land borders with Togo remains closed, and there are other challenges related to border closures. How is AFTA surviving in the midst of these border closures? How are you facilitating cross-border investments in the face of the border closures? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in actual fact, the reference here was to cross-border investments, not necessarily trade, because part of the objectives, the strategic objectives of the AFCFTA is to support investments from one country to the other. For example, what Dangote is doing, or what some of our Ghanaian entrepreneurs are also doing in another African country. But be that as it may, it is still important that the issue of facilitating cross-border trade, that's the movement of goods between the countries, is critical if the FCFTA should succeed. So one of the operational instruments to facilitate cross-border trade between the countries is a non-tariff barrier online platform that allows any trader that is confronted with a very specific cross-border trade challenge to file a complaint on the non-tariff barrier platform. And there's a requirement for the offending party in the particular state country to respond and address the challenge that, or the particular difficulty or challenge that they are facing. In the event that it is not resolved, the protocol on dispute settlement, which is part of what has been negotiated, allows a party that is still aggrieved in respect of a particular cross-border challenge that has not been addressed to file a complaint with a dispute settlement body. So this is really one of the major differences between the existing Ecowas protocol and the AFCFTA, because now there's an instrument that allows you to be able to at least make a complaint about issues relating to cross-border trade, and additionally, for you to be able to file a claim in the dispute settlement body. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. We'll proceed to... Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I will be very pleased to make copies of this National Action Plan available to honorable members. And in fact, I would encourage honorable members that are interested in supporting companies in their constituencies that may not necessarily have been identified as part of this group of 180 companies that are currently being assessed to show your interest, and then we'll be pleased to work with them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next question is in the name of the Honourable Member for Cape Coast North, Dr. Kwamena Minta Nyaku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry when Amin Sangari Industry in Cape Coast, which has been registered under the One District, One Factory program, will be duly revamped and reopened to provide employment to the people of Cape Coast and neighboring communities. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Amin Sangari, that's the Amin Sangari Company, is one of the existing companies, distressed companies that are operating under the 1D1F program, and is currently being revamped to create employment, add value to available raw materials, and boost the government's import substitution agenda. Mr. Speaker, the company on the 30th of December last year, 2021, received a loan facility of 6.1 million Ghana cedis from one of the participating financial institutions under the 1D1F to enable it revamp its operations. The facility covers the procurement of equipment and machinery as well as working capital. In line with this, and to ensure that the company starts operation as soon as practicable, the following urgent decisions have been initiated by the management of the company with support of our ministry. First, retooling of the kernel oil section to take advantage of the palm fruit harvesting season, which starts in February. And secondly, the importation of a sterilizer and other equipment for retooling of the crude palm oil section of the company, and this is expected to commence by the end of March this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable members.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would want the Minister to assure the House as to exactly when the company will open.
He wants you to assure the House exactly what date the company will open.
Mr. Speaker, we are working towards a benchmark date of February, before the end of February. That's for the kernel oil section to start operating, and then for the crude palm oil section also by the end of March 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're done. Very well. Yes, Cape Coast South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Follow-up question from the Minister.
about the 6.1 million Ghana cedis which was given to Amin Sangare. I want to find out whether it's a loan facility or it's an equity. And what are we to expect from
Honourable
Amin
Member,
Sangare?
read the answer. It stays there. A loan facility of.
Mr. Speaker, I'm building up the question. Okay, what I want to know is that what are we asking in return, from Amin in terms of job creation? I mean, have they given us indication as to how much jobs they will be able to create from this loan facility if they're able to get the equipment and all the machineries and the things that you've talked about here? That's basically what I want to know. The loan facility.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have the exact figures in terms of the employment to be created, but as I've explained before, this is part of the package of support to distressed companies. And once the installation is completed and the test runs and the commissioning is done, we'll be in a better position to make that estimation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'll move on to the next question. It's in the name of the Honourable Member for Bolivamboy, Honourable Yusuf Suleiman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry what the specific support the following companies received under the 1D, 1F program. I, Empire Cement Company Limited, II, CH Group Limited. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister. Question 727.
Mr. Speaker, Empire Cement Company Limited has not as yet benefited from any specific support under the 1D, 1F initiative because the company is undergoing the process of registering under the 1D, 1F program. Mr. Speaker, in respect of the CH Group, it is indeed one of the 1D, 1F companies that has benefited from a credit facility from the Ghana Exim Bank, which is one of the participating financial institutions, to the tune of 10 million Ghana cedis for the construction of the factory as well as the procurement equipment and machinery. In addition, the company has applied for levies on machinery and equipment, which is led by the Ministry of Finance. We also held discussions with the KFC local representative group to encourage them to source locally processed and freshly packed yam, which will be produced by the company as a replacement for the potato chips that is currently being sold at the KFC restaurants. Both the company and the KFC local representative will undertake a site visit to assess if the processing lines of the company would meet the international standards that is required by a global company such as KFC. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I have just one follow-up question, and that has to do with the second company, CH Global Limited. From the answer, it seems to me that this company is yet to start operations because you said that even the tax exemptions that you are yet to grant, the equipment are yet to arrive. If that is the case, in the 2020 budget, you stated that some jobs were created, and under this company, 254 jobs were created. How were they created when the company hasn't started operations? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure where the Honorable Member got his facts from, but the company has already done some production, and the estimates that were provided is based on their current production estimates. Now, the additional equipment that is being indicated here is additional to the existing equipment of the company. And I would encourage the honorable member to make sure that his facts are correct.
I said that I wouldn't have any, but from what he has just said, there's a need for me to put on record that when we were discussing your budget, and you said 153,782 jobs were created by 106 1D1Fs. Under this global, C8 Global, you said, and is here in Appendix 1B that you submitted to us, where you said that indirect jobs created under this 54 jobs were created and 200 jobs indirectly created. Now, the President commissioned this project on the 9th of September 2021, and you are suggesting to us that between 9th September 2021 to November, when you presented the budget, 254 jobs had been created. Can you confirm this?
Yes,
Speaker, my good friend is copiously referencing a document, and I'm curious. I want to know if he can give a better particulars of the document he's referencing. Is it the budget statement? What is it? Let's know what you are referencing.
Mr. Speaker, it seems to me my leader wasn't listening. I said when we were discussing the 2022 budget, he had stated in the budget that 153,782 jobs were created. And Mr. Speaker's committee asked him to give us details, and he submitted this document labeled 1B. This is the document I'm referring to, and I can submit same to the table office for verification. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that document is not available to me now, and so I'm unable to speak to it. But when we talk about 106 companies currently in operation, and a certain number of jobs have been created, it doesn't mean that all the companies have created the same number of jobs. So they will vary. And this company, even though it was commissioned, was not built at the time of commission. So if you want to know further and better particulars of how much the company had produced before the commissioning, that amount of work can be done and then provided to you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Honorable Member for Bolivamboy, you also have question number 728.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry what happened to the 49.9 hectares of sugarcane maize as part of the Commander Sugar Factory project. What happened to this nursery? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, a contract for the development of a sugarcane nursery on a 50-hectare piece of land at Commander was signed between the government of Ghana and South Tech, India, in 2016. Mr. Speaker, Surftech India claims that the government of Ghana had refused to pay for the development of the said 50-hectare sugarcane nursery, estimated at $2.75 million United States dollars. The company is therefore claiming damages estimated at $3,935,000 USD with interest. Mr. Speaker, government, on the other hand, has stated that the nursery contract was not fully executed and handed over to the ministry. In fact, the technical audit that was conducted could not verify the existence of the 49 hectares that the honorable member is referring to. Furthermore, the contract was actually not approved by Parliament as required by the Constitution of Ghana. Government is therefore seeking reimbursement as a counterclaim from Surftech, an amount of 5,400,000 cedis with interest, being cost of the items paid for but never supplied by the said company. Against the foregoing background, Surftech filed for arbitration, which they were entitled to under the terms of the contract. And in May 2020, when this was filed, it was filed before the Ghana Arbitration Center. Mr. Speaker, all hearings on this matter have been concluded since the 10th of October 2021, and both parties are currently waiting for the award of the arbitration proceedings. Ghana has made payment for the arbitration fees. The claimant has not made payment for the fees that are due them, and that is why the award from the arbitration proceedings has been delayed. If they make payment, the award and the determination will be made available to both parties.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy with the Minister's response. Mr. Speaker, I am certain, having listened to you, especially reading your first paragraph, that some provision was made for a nursery, and for that matter, for the cultivation of sugarcane for the Commander Sugar Factory. I think this has been established. And it is also known to us here in this House that an amount of $24.5 million was approved in November 2016. It's a preamble to launch in my question. Just establishing that in 2016, November, an amount of $25.4 million was also approved for raw material for Commander Sugar Factory. Having said this, I want to find out from the Minister whether you have received any equipment from Surftech as part of the contract. Thank you.
Whether you have received any equipment from who?
Surftech, the very company that you mentioned. Equipment, yes, please, as part of the contracts.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to respectfully refer the honourable member to the text of my response, and for the benefit of the House, I would like to read as follows: that, Mr. Speaker, government, on the other hand, has stated that necessary contract was not fully executed and handed over to the ministry. And in fact, the counterclaim that government is making is in respect of equipment and other materials that were supposed to have been supplied by the Indian company, which they did not comply with. And I'm not sure whether you are representing the company in this matter, but if you can get further details from them, they did not fully execute the terms of the contract. And so they are in breach of the contract. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let me put on record that I don't know the company and I'm not representing the company. I'm representing the interests of Ghanaians, especially the people of Comenda. Now, Mr. Speaker, I hold in my hand a document that his ministry commissioned Pricewaterhouse Company to do an audit dated 10th October 2017. And the second item in that document is nursery development. Nursery development. Now, paragraph 28, with your permission, I want to read. All farm equipment have been provided. However, there was no irrigation system in place as required by the contract document. You have just said that no equipment were provided. Can you reconcile this, please?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hope that I was heard right. I said not all the equipment were provided. And on that basis, we were making a counter-claim for the lack of specific performance. And the honorable member himself is indicating that the irrigation equipment, which is absolutely critical for any nursery operation, had not been supplied. So I'm wondering on what basis the honorable member is making that request for clarification. Because you've indicated that the irrigation equipment were not supplied. And that is exactly the claim, the basis of our counter-claim. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes, you move on to your next question, which is question number 17.
I wanted to clarify something, but I go to the last question. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Trade and Industry what specific support the following companies received under the 1D1F program. 1. Ferro Fabric Limited. 2. Everpure Holding Limited. 3. Mayo Forestry Ghana Limited. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the first company, Ferro Fabric Limited, is one of the companies that are currently registered under the 1D1F program. The company has applied for tax exemption on import duties and levies on machinery and equipment, which has been pending in this August House since June 2021. Mr. Speaker, the second company, Everpure Holdings Limited, is also among the 37 companies that have enjoyed import duty waiver on machinery and equipment for the first phase of the company's operations. The company has also received a credit facility to the tune of 11.17 billion Ghana cedis from Ecowas Ghana, which is one of the PFIs under the 1D1F program, and has therefore benefited from the interest subsidy that I've referred to earlier on. Mr. Speaker, the company has also been supported with the extension of electricity and has applied for another tax exemption on machinery, equipment, and parts, which is also pending before this August House since June 2021. Speaker, the last company, Mayo Forestry Ghana Limited, has applied for tax exemption on import duties and levies on machinery and equipment, which has also been pending before this House since June 2021. In addition, Mayo Forestry has benefited from the provision of a transformer and extension of electricity to the company's site in the Sechia From Plains district in the Ashanti region. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, my first follow-up question is on Miro Forestry Ghana Limited. The last paragraph, the minister stated that the company benefited from the provision of a transformer and extension of electricity to the company sites. Mr. Speaker, I also want to make reference to the documents the minister gave us with respect to job creation. Under Miro Forestry Limited, the minister stated that direct jobs created 300, indirect jobs created 800. I want to find out from the minister that the extension of electricity to the company and the provision of transformer resulted in the creation of 1,100 jobs. That's what I want to find out from you. My question is this. The whole issue of supporting these companies, among others, is for them to be able to create jobs for the people of this country. Now you have provided them with electricity, and you have also supported them with a transformer. And you have told us that as a result of that, 1,100 jobs have been created. I want you to confirm that this support has led to the creation of 1,100 jobs. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm trying to understand the substance of the Honorable Member's question, because if there's a statement indicating that a transformer has been provided for the company and a section of electricity has also been made to the company, then it stands to reason that that has supported the company in creating the jobs. So I'm wondering whether the challenge is whether it is the electricity that was extended that created the job, or the support that was given to the company generally that has led to the creation of the jobs. Because the transformer and extension of electricity to the company is part of the package of the support that is given to the company. So through that support, it enhances their capacity to operate efficiently and by extension create jobs. So I'm finding it difficult to understand whether you are comparing or attributing the extension of the electricity to the specific number of jobs. But obviously, that will be an exercise that is impossible to conclude here on this floor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go into any debate with the minister. I'm happy he's here to answer the questions. My concern has to do with job creation vis-a-vis 1D, 1F, and it's very important. Now, on Everpure Holding Limited, you're saying that they receive a credit facility from Ecobank to the tune of 11.17 million. They've also been given some extension of electricity, and also you are giving them tax exemptions. That company alone is getting this package. Is there any particular reason why other companies have applied and they have not been given any support, and this one has applied, is being given the support to get loan, is being given the extension of electricity, and you are asking for exemption for it? Is there any special reason why you think we should treat this company this way? Thank you.
Honourable Member, are you relating to a specific company or just the general realm?
Mr. Speaker, I said Everpure specifically.
Yes, you have said why has Everpure been giving these but not others. Who are the others that have not been given? Do you want to be specific about any company? Well, I don't know whether you know of any and why, and some people have not been granted.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I thought that your inquiry was properly put. You are wondering why a particular company has benefited from these incentives. The Right Honorable Speaker is requesting you to provide and identify companies that have not, but be that as it may, Right Honorable Speaker, be that as it may, Right Honorable Speaker, just to clarify that companies that benefit from loans have to be appraised by the participating financial institutions. What the 1D1F does is to facilitate access to the loan and also provide an interest subsidy. So if other companies are unable to get their loan applications approved by a particular participating financial institution, it will be difficult for the minister to try and understand why other companies have not benefited and others have. So the basis for this is that you apply, we facilitate access to the loan. If you go to the credit appraisal process and they approve it, we give you the interest subsidy. So that is a simple answer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are you done? Honorable member for... No, I want to be sure he has one more before I go to anybody else. Are you done?
Mr. Speaker, my last one still has to do with job creation. Everpure, as listed in this document, has created 1,500 jobs as part of the 106 1D 1Fs. Direct 1,000, indirect, no, direct 500, indirect 1,000. I want to find out from the minister, this is an existing company. It existed before your support. Are you saying that the 1,500 that you have stated here is an addition to the already existing staff strength, or that is the total number of staff for Everpure Holding Company Limited? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, in my earlier response, I was trying to understand whether the Honorable Member is looking for direct attribution of the support in terms of the number of jobs created. And I said that would be a difficult exercise. We've indicated the number of jobs that have been created as a result of the support that the company has received under the 1D1F program or initiative. And my understanding is that that will be part of the reason why they've been able to create those jobs that have been reflected in the document. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, at least I see my question. He didn't get it. If you can allow me to ask the question, it's very important.
He provided an answer. I think that's sufficient.
Thank
you. Another member for Bongo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to verify from the minister. You know, he indicated that these companies are normally appraised by the participating financial institutions to be able to access the loans. The Ministry of Trade do you provide some capacity building for these companies to be able to make themselves, to be able to present themselves properly, to be able to access these loans? Because from all indications, you need to really meet certain pass on checklist on the participating what they call the financial institutions. As a ministry, do you really build the capacity of these companies to be able to properly organize themselves to be able to access these loans?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the requirements for companies to participate in the 1D1F program is that they should present a business proposal. And that business proposal is evaluated on the basis of a defined criteria. Once you are able to fulfill the conditions in respect of the defined criteria, then the process is escalated to the bank. Because the bank is taking the risk on any facility that is extended to the particular company, there's a limit to which we can determine whether the bank provides a credit facility or not. But we'll do a normal appraisal, we'll screen the company and assist them to present their case to the bank. But at that point, the decision is that of the particular bank, whether to provide the facility or not. So we provide support to the companies to apply. That is what the facilitation is about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity. In the answer from the Minister, he made mention of appraisal being done by financial institutions. I would like to find out from the Minister, those financial institutions, are they private or public, if you can know their names? Sorry, I don't know if you can remove the remark so we can hear you properly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to inquire from the Minister. In providing the answer, he made mention of financial institutions that did appraisal. I would like to find out from him whether they are private or public, as well as, if you care, we want to know the name. The participating banks, are they public or private?
Speaker, it's a mixture of private and public sector banks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Ho West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the minister's answer, he said, Myro Forestry Ghana Limited has applied for tax exemption since June 2001, and they've not been given. I just want to find out from the minister whether equipment have arrived and they have installed them, or they are still there because of the tax exemption, they've not been installed.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm unable to confirm the specific details in respect of Myro. But generally speaking, when they make an application for tax exemption, they would indicate the period within which they expect the machinery and equipment to arrive. So it's a matter of great concern when the application for exemption is not granted early enough. But I'm unable to provide a specific information on this company. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Cape Coast. Or is it?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to ask for your leave to make a small correction on an answer that the minister gave. If you give me the permission before I follow up with my question.
You want to correct the minister's answer?
No, there's a problem with the name of a company, and because this is a house of records, I'm of the opinion that we should give the minister the opportunity to correct it so that it will reflect
So kindly
records.
Put the proper name to him. If he admits with you, then the record will be corrected.
Okay, so now to my question. Okay, now in your response to question 729, You stated that you gave 10 million subsidy to CH Group. But in the list of companies that are working currently, when you run through, you don't find this company in the list. You only find CH Global Limited. I want to find out if the CH Global Limited is the same as the CH Group, so that you can make the correction. That's the first one.
Yes, Honorable Minister. You're entitled to only one.
No, it's not.
Mr. Speaker, it's the same company.
Yes.
Okay, now to my question, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, so you use the correction to answer a question. Very well. Just proceed.
Okay, the issue of Everpure has been on the table as far as the employment numbers are concerned. Now, my question is this. Everpure has been in the system for a very long time. Now, the minister is saying that an aggregate population numbers, employment, that both direct and indirect, is 1,500. I want to find out, how many employees did Everpure have before the intervention was given? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I do not have the specific details. We can provide that in due course. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, that is the end of question time. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for attending upon the House to answer questions. You are discharged. Honorable Second Deputy Speaker to take the chair. Yes, Honorable Chief.
Mr. Speaker, we have an indication that we are likely to have an order paper addendum to consider the e-levy. So I'm just Mr. Speaker, the e-levy.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Deputy Leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker,
you are in charge of government business. When you bring it here,
Speaker, we'll bring it.
When you bring
yes,
it here,
we are bringing it today.
Then we'll consider it.
Yes,
so now there's nothing before us. Yes.
We are bringing it today.
Should we return to the statements?
It doesn't matter. We'll bring it today.
Honorable Leader, shall we return to the statements?
Speaker, as was agreed earlier, Leader, if I have your attention, the statement in the name of the Honorable Ablakwa, there was a condition. And if you recall, originally the plan was that it was supposed to take it yesterday and it had to be deferred in anticipation of the presence of the Employment Minister. So, Leader, I think we should still put it on hold since the directive or the conclusion was that we should have the Employment Minister in the House before that statement is presented. So we may have to defer that particular statement.
Mr. Speaker, we had to come to questions, commencement of public business I don't intend to respond to the deputy leader about when E-level will be introduced or reintroduced, or when he will work out on a budget or on E-level. Mr. Speaker, the dance that survives the next day, the tie is not in a haste to dance it.
Come again. The dance that what?
You know, if you start dancing, if you dance, Mr. Speaker, dance which ensues midnight into the next day, the tie is always not in a haste to start it. So this tie on E-levy, we were ready to dance. If he thinks he has a tie, which will continue to tomorrow morning, we are fine. Mr. Speaker, there is one statement which is more of a tribute to one of our MPs who passed on, the member for Techima. Maybe I should persuade my colleagues. No. The Honorable Abraka's statement can be taken tomorrow. I agree with him when the Minister for Employment is available. I'm sure it's on growing youth unemployment in the country. But if the Honorable Ejari has a statement which is just to pay tribute, I'm told that you agreed next week with them. It's a short statement, Mr. Speaker. Let her read. Apart from her, only me, Mr. Speaker, and then you. Just that. Then we adjourn after it, so that...
Is it time bound?
Yes, just to, an eulogy of a member of parliament. Mr. Speaker, just one contribution, then after that we can adjourn.
Speaker, my information, you see, Speaker, leaders should not get into the local politics there. They shouldn't get into the local politics there. We are wide awake to the local politics. The two of you have statements. Yes. We understand you have your statement. Honorable Ajay Mensah also has a statement on the same subject matter. So we would want to defer. Wait, it's not NDC MPP matter. This is systems and policies. Mr. Speaker, so we have agreed that since the funeral is in 2 weeks' time, we look at it next week. There's no problem. So that both of them is in the national interest. The two of you should make the statement jointly. You don't wait when he's temporarily absent, then you do it to take the glory. It won't happen. Let's agree. Let's conclude.
Yes, let me hear you.
Mr. Speaker, it is becoming the strategy of this side of the House that when we prepare statements, they think that by allowing the statement to be read, we are taking the glory. So they want the statement to be delayed. They also prepare same statement. Mr. Speaker, this strategy is the Kolo strategy. Stop it. Stop using that strategy. The member knows that the funeral is in 2 weeks, but he prepared a statement. And the member who died, whose statement is to be read, was the first parliament of the Republic of... And you are not even in parliament then. You see...
Mr. Speaker, we are just updating you that at conclave, the consensus was that it will be taken next week. I mean, all other matters are on the lighter note. Next week was the agreement.
In actual fact, I have two statements. One by my sister Elizabeth and the other one by my brother Martin. And yes, it's my sister. My sister and my brother, and they are all in respect of the same person. So I think if the funeral is coming on 2 weeks' time, we can actually take it together next week when the other honorable member is around, so that we take it together. We do the contributions together. I think let's settle in that way. Then we move to no, we are taking at least let's.
Mr. Speaker, there be no further competent parliamentary business for the day. I move that this House stand adjourned. So tomorrow, no, we started after 2, so we are still within the 4 hours. No, sir, we didn't start we started after 2, not exactly 2. So, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned tomorrow. What? Mr. Speaker,
Yes, let me hear you.
Thank you.
Yes, leader. 10.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the motion will be moved. I second the motion, but we can put it to some debate before question is put.
Yes. Honorable members, there's no debate on this. I mean, we are not going. We are not tied. Honorable members, we move to adjourn the House to tomorrow, 10 a.m. before noon. 10 a.m. before noon. The House stands adjourned.